What's good, everybody, and welcome back to my new video. Today I'm going to talk about how I make notes. How do I fill my Notion with new notes for my lectures? And I will actually do that today and show you some examples of how I put the slides, the information of the slides from experimental psychology into my Notion app. Because now I have kind of find my structure of how to study. So I will talk about that as well and will show you everything which goes along that. So be excited and let's go. Okay, so here you can see my Notion app on my iPad. These are my class notes. So basically, what you can see here is a template. So you have a ticking box if you have reviewed it, then the name of the lecture or chapter or book or whatever, then which class it is. So I currently have 4 classes. We can see that here. Well, actually 4 classes, but just in Notion I have 3 classes because for academic skills I don't take any notes. So for experimental psychology, research methodology, and introduction to psychology and history of psychology. This is what you can see here. Then I can also select a type. So if it's a tutorial, a lecture, a seminar, study group, reading, whatever. And I can also link some materials here. So for example, here I had a tutorial in experimental psychology and group. And I had to Padlets for that, so I just linked them here, and I can also see when I created my notes. So today we just look what notes I am going to take. We just open our service for that, so where we can get our slides from. In Tilburg University we use Canvas, and I also saw that for other universities. So we have experimental psychology, experimental psychology. Then we go to modules and scroll down to our slides, lecture 8, slides only, there we go. So let's create a new page. We will have our keyboard here. So this is called, I think this is about learning as far as I'm know. Let's see, conditioning, still conditioning and learning. All right, so this lecture is about learning. There we go. This class is experimental psychology. The type is a lecture. I don't take any notes at the actual lecture. That's why I have to do that afterwards with the slides which I loaded it up. Yeah. So what we can do in Notion is create a toggle list, which looks like that. This is a toggle list. The good thing is that we can use active recall here. What is active recall exactly? Active recall is when you have to actively think about an answer. So it's like a quiz actually. What do you do? How do you do that? How do I do that? So I make questions up for the information I have to retrieve. So I use the toggle list to name a question and then after that the answer. So I have to actively think about the answer before I see it, and this makes me to actively recall the memory, the information I have to know. Now coming to another critical criterion in my learning, which is not just active recall, but also spaced repetition. Spaced repetition comes from the man called Ebbinghaus. I think it's Hermann Ebbinghaus, who was the first guy who started memory in general. How did he do that? he had a list full of nonsense syllables such like tef, ron, fel, tal, whatever. Just like 3 letters, and then he tried to memorize them. Then he memorized it, and he saw pretty quickly after he remembered, there was a curve that he forgot it really quickly. Then after some time, he relearned it, so there was 100%, but then the curve was slightly flattened. So pretty fast we stopped memorizing it, but it was flattened. So before it was like this, and then it flattened. And after each recall, after each time we memorized it again, the curve got flattened. So in order to work against this forgetting curve, we try to space the repetitions in which we memorize and retrieve the information we learn. How do I do that? So every time I have my notes on my iPad, I put it in my calendar. So for the next day, for example, I have to retrieve or get into the learning of my notes. Then next time it's 2 days after that. Then 4 days, 1 week, 2 weeks, maybe 4 weeks, whatever. It depends on the time I have to my exams. So for example, now I will have my exams in mid of October, so I will have to be through all notes until the mid of October, which basically means I have maybe not 2 weeks time, but I do 2 days, 4 days, 1 week, and again 1 week, because I don't have enough time. How does it look in my calendar? So here, for example, we see the month of September. You see, I started with my Notion on the 20th of September, and then I tick when I revised it. So for today, I didn't do my Notion, but I have to do it. So I put Notion, experimental psychology, and then the name memory. Notion, experimental psychology, vision and gestalt psychology. Notion, history on Darwin, and so on. So when I started, for example, with Notion memory here, I have it 2 days after that, then 1, 2, 3, 4 days after that, then 1 week, and then I don't have time for 2 weeks, so I just do it the week after. This is how it looks. Then sometimes it can occur that I have like 6 or 7 Notion notes to revise on 1 day, but as you can see further on, it's just like 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So I just have to do 1 to 3. Let's see, 1 to 3 Notion revise sessions at 1 day. Just a short disclaimer. As you know, or as you can see, I just started with it, so I don't know if it really works. There are studies or many people also on YouTube who made videos about it and say that active recall and spaced repetitions are the best ways to learn. Although I also seen a video recently from a medical doctor student something-ish, and he said these are not the best ways to learn because it's just understanding and knowing. It's not about finding relationships or even applying it. So that might be a problem to encode the information into your long-term memory. However, these seem to be the easiest and most effective ways to learn and memorize. I will tell you after some time, give you an update about how it works for me, if my exam grades are good for that, but I think this is really solid, and until now I can say it's pretty easy to just be on the train or be in a break and just take my phone out and just scrolling through Notion and seeing, oh okay, I have to revise this section, these notes, go through them once, twice, maybe the third time, and after that I know what I've done, and I can see how well I've done. Well, so this is how I learn. I hope you could take something out of it, maybe also trying to apply it to your learning. If you have any suggestions or changes how I should learn, how you learn maybe, which is different to my way of learning, please write it down in the comments. I'd be very happy to learn about that. And yeah, let's go through this journey and see how I will develop, how I will cope with that, go through some challenges or whatever. And I'd be happy to see you in the next videos. So stay tuned and see you soon.